explain this record. It surprised me. It took me completely by surprise. It wasn't sort of, I just wasn't even thinking I was making a record, to be honest. I was just writing. And I realized that I was beginning to sort of look way over my shoulder and try to make sense of the moment. It's like, I passed 6 decades. Suddenly I'm 60 years old. What the hell is that all about? Grandfather. And yet I still feel like I'm about 26, maybe 25, I don't know. But my sweet dad, from 1965, he's now 87 years old, and he's now in care, and he doesn't know who I am even anymore. He's been fighting the good fight. He is raging, bless his heart. Went in to see him about 7 weeks ago for the first time, because I couldn't go in, we weren't allowed in to see him because of COVID, and 2 nurses brought my dad into the room, and I hardly recognized him in terms of his physical generation there, but they said, "Brian, it's your son Martyn," and he took one look at me and just turned around and wanted to get out of the room. He had no idea where I was. But I said, "Dad, I brought the guitar." And the nurse was saying, "Brian, it's your son Martyn," and very little. But then I remember, he bought me my first guitar, and I learned to play Autumn Leaves for him because he loved that song. And so I said, "Dad, listen." And he looked up, little twinkle in his eye, came over, and we had a lovely half hour together. And a couple of years ago, Dad was still at home, and I went to my parents' house to give Mum a little break so she could go for a walk or something. And I just sat there with him. He was fairly comatose for most of it, but he suddenly woke up in the middle. I remember him looking over at me and smiling, and he had his dressing gown on, and he came over and he started shadowboxing me. Throwing punches. So I thought, well, I better get up here so I can get my head blocked off. So I stood up and started, doing a bit of that with him. And I remembered a little while later that when I was a kid, I forgot all about this, but he bought me a boxing set. It was a Freddie Mills, who was this big champion of England apparently back in the 50s or something. It was the Freddie Mills boxing set, and it was like a plank of wood, said Freddie Mills on it. And there was this stem thing with a thing of his face, and you had to punch Freddie Mills till he, And the problem was, if you didn't have your foot on the back of that plank, that would come up and whack you in the arse, and it was very painful. But I remember him saying to me, he said, "You need to toughen up. You need to toughen up, son. You're going to a big school soon. You need to toughen up." And that never happened. I became a guitar player. But I remembered this, and I honestly, this is the thing, right? We're surrounded by. This is one of the best places to find inspiration for songs. I often come in with a notebook. You write down. Here's a little tip: 20 titles of a novel, right? Because that novel list has probably been thinking about that title for 4 years. He has sweated over that title. Just write the title down. There is so much juice in that. And you take home 25 titles, you will find yourself transported to something in your head that will bring out beautiful. Honestly, bookstores are it. But the other thing you've got to do is capture the muse, the butterfly that lands in front of you at any given moment. Do not be so arrogant as to think that it will stay around if you're not interested. So I might be riffing at home on my guitar. I don't know, just... That's right, that's the... And I'll say, good, I got that, I'll go have a cup of tea. 20 minutes later, I come back, it's gone. It's gone down the road, Billy Bragg's got it. I won it. Something's gone, it's not quite the same. So you need to record it, but you really need to write these ideas down so you can flesh them out at another time. Just record something of that moment. And I just wrote down shadowboxing on a piece of paper, and I dated it, and I put it in my notebook when I got home. But nothing came. Dad was still, as I say, living with my mum, and then he forward a year and 2 days later, and he's now in care, and we take it in turns to ring him on at 6 o'clock to sort of speak to him. And I don't like doing it because, often he's just breathing on the other line. There's no real recognition, and I know as soon as I can't do it anymore, I'll miss it like crazy, but I don't look forward to it. It's a strange thing to be present with someone who isn't present anymore. But it was 6 o'clock, it was my time to do it, and I spoke to him, and then I went to my notebook and I'd opened, and there it was a year and 2 days later, and it all flooded out. I was thinking of the boxing thing and the analogy of that, and I went to the piano and I recorded what I thought was a demo, but it ended up being the actual song that's on the record. It's pretty raw. I wrote a song for my grandfather who went the same way, and it was called Carried in Sunlight, and it was a kind of a romantic look at it in a different way, but this is a far, far tougher beast. So for any of you who have loved ones in the midst of it, going through it, it's an awful thing, but I hear you, see you. We see each other. You stand there and you shadow box me, though it feels like I could blow you down. I know you're still in there fighting like a good one now. Yeah, you're smiling and you're ducking down. Well, we played that game when I was a kid, and we have played it all our lives. The bottom line is love, my father. The bottom line is love. The bottom line is love, my father. Bottom line is love. That was you there in my corner when I went down for the count. I could spit blood there in the bucket, and you'd patch me up and send me out. And some nights I could dance there with you, but other days, you know, there was 1,000 miles. But the bottom line is love, my father. Bottom line is love. Bottom line is love, sweet father. Bottom line is love. Bottom line is love, my father. Bottom line is love. Now I sit here in dappled sunshine, approaching 6 o'clock. It's an incandescent moment, and a soul is taking stock. It is time to call my father. He'll be sleeping in a chair. I know he'd kiss me if he knew me, but his mind resides elsewhere. Now I have anger and I have sadness. I have that joy that won't let go, 'cause the bottom line